If you like looting and doing stuff over and over and over again, you're going to love The Division, and this is The Division review. Boom! The Division, a brand new game, a brand new IP from Ubisoft, and we know that from the statistics, the actual game is one of the best selling in history for new IPs in Ubisoft's history and in game history for the new consoles. I'm not sure about old consoles. So if you don't know about The Division, you've been living under a rock because it has been under a lot of hype and under a lot of fantastic awesomeness pretty much. The game is just a really fun game to play. It is a RPG slash, people will say it's MMO, RPG. You know, people are going to say just about anything that it is. And the fact is, it's a Tom Clancy game, so if you like the original Tom Clancy games, you're going to love this as well. Because Tom Clancy has always done fantastic with games, and it doesn't stop here. If you're new to this series, and a lot of you are, because it is a new IP, you might be wondering, what is the appeal of The Division? What makes the game so special, and why does everybody like it so much who has played it? Now, obviously not everybody likes it, but a lot of people like it. And the reason for that is, I think, one, the art style. The art style of the game is fantastic. Usually nowadays you get a zombie apocalypse in these kind of games, but you kind of get something else different with this. You kind of feel more involved in it because you're not killing aliens, you're killing actual humans. Now, there are some downsides to the game that we will get to, in my opinion. They're not game breaking or anything like that. They're just my personal opinions on what I wish they would have added to the game to make it feel more alive. Art style of this game is fantastic. It is a beautiful game, and one of the best positives about this game, in a world to where load screens take forever, you can load up a game and it will take 30 minutes just to load to the next screen. The Division hardly has any load screens whatsoever, which is the fantastic thing. Now, obviously, you get some load screens here and there, and when you load up the game for the first time, you get maybe a 3 or 4 minute load screen. But after that, you're pretty much clean sailing through. You don't really get too many actual load screens until you go into an area that is, maybe not considered part of the map. Now, multiplayer is kind of a downside because really the only multiplayer you have is kind of doing missions with other people. And at the same time, you can really only go into the dark zone, which we will get into the dark zone here in a little bit as well if you don't know too much about the game yet, like we said earlier. So the game really does have a lot going for it when it comes to how the art style, how the gameplay feels, how smooth it is, and like we said, in a world full of load screens, there are hardly any, which is a big deal to a lot of you guys, I'm pretty sure, because nobody wants to sit through a load screen for a long time. So the next is the looting system. I think everybody kind of likes the looting system in games. Look at Destiny, for example. And a lot of people have compared The Division to Destiny, which you can definitely see the comparison there. When you kind of put the two games side by side, minus the art style, kind of the same mechanics are there in between these two games. But you got to think of, you can't really just compare it to The Division because a lot of other games have done the same thing as well. We're only comparing it to The Division. I don't want to say me because I don't really want to do that, but I'm just kind of using it as a reference. I think a lot of people want to use it as a reference because it is one of the most recent games to come out, and then The Division was announced after it a couple years ago at E3, and then everybody from there was kind of comparing it to Destiny from the get-go, and nobody really gave it a chance before they kind of compared it. So the looting system in the game is pretty unique, and if you want to compare it to Destiny, you can. I can definitely see that comparison there. The loot system is when you kill so many people, they eventually drop different items. You have blue, you have a light blue like a teal, which is for clothes, so you can actually customize your character a little bit more how you want. You get yellow, which is I think ultra rare, or what's it called? Like high end, I think is actually what they call it in the game, not legendary or anything like that. And then you also have purple, which is superior, is actually what your equipment is called when you get it into a purple. Now, a lot of these things you actually can buy from the stores, but they do cost a lot of in-game currency. Now, one of the great things is, as far as I know, you cannot actually buy money from the game itself, so it is not a pay-to-win, which is those are some problems for some people. They don't want pay-to-win, which is very understandable. So you can't really just go out and buy a whole bunch of money just so you can get the best weapons in the game, because I think a lot of people would do that and would just start dominating into these zones. Now, one of the things the game does do to avoid that is, say if they did sell money in the game later on, which they might, because a lot of games definitely do that. So one of the things that definitely kind of alters how the game actually plays is that I can actually pick up a gun that is, if I'm a level 10, but it is actually a level 30 gun, I cannot use it until I get to level 30. So it does kind of protect the, the users and the gamers playing it, that you can't really just go out and get the best weapon in the game until you actually reach max level. Once you reach max level, a lot more opportunities show up to you. A lot of more things can be accessed when you are those higher levels, just like it should be in the game. That way you have to play to get up to those high levels, which I think is a great thing the game has going for it. It is a great mechanic that you can't just go out and buy these guns. You actually have to be the correct level, because I can pick up a gun that is a level 15 and I'm only a level 10 without even buying it, just picking it up off a dead enemy, and then all of a sudden I can't use it until I'm level 15. I just thought that was a great game mechanic into the actual game itself. So it's really a smart thing on Ubisoft and Tom Clancy's. I don't know who actually made the game. I don't know the publisher's name, but they definitely did a great job there. Another thing I think a lot of people actually like about the game as well is kind of the amount you can customize your character and your guns. That's one thing I've always loved about kind of realistic games, is how much you can actually customize your gun. I can actually get a silencer. I can put a red dot on my gun. Now, I can't really use any of the actual red dots because it just kind of zooms in a little bit. But if you get like a 3.5 times scope, you can actually zoom in and your guns look more badass too, which is all what we were actually looking for. We don't care if our gun is good, we just want it to look badass. Alright, so we talked about customization. We have talked about what the actual game, kind of plays like a little bit. Now, one of the other things I want to praise this game for, and this is actually rare for games these days, and this is the fact that the game is actually very hard to play. If you want to try playing it by yourself doing missions, you can. And even on normal difficulty, it is actually very hard. You actually have to watch your health. You can't just go running out into the middle of the open killing everybody, because that's not going to work. You actually have to kind of take your time with the bosses. You actually have to take your time with what's around you, because the enemies in this game are actually difficult, which is very rare, like I said, in games nowadays. Usually games nowadays, they kind of go for the more easy route and make sure, it's more enjoyable for everybody. But in my personal opinion, Tom Clancy games were never meant to be easy. They were meant to kind of challenge you, because it would make it to where you could play with your friends, and then it becomes easier. It kind of gave you a reason to play with your friends. And The Division also does that very well as well, pretty much, because you can do co-op in the game, I think with up to, either 4 or 5 people. And it does include multiplayer into the Dead Zone, which we still haven't talked about. We will get there, though, I promise. Okay, so I've been talking about it and been talking about it. Now we're going to talk about the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone, if you do not know about the game, is basically the Division's online multiplayer. So the way it works is you go into the actual city itself, and there's a main part of the city that actually everything happened. The whole, I don't want to say like apocalypse, but the virus spread there the worst. So that's where you go, and you can actually get the best loot there. And what you do is you go in there, you have a lot of AI you have to kill, and the AI, again, are very difficult to not make things easy on the actual player, which, again, I applaud the game for. But you go into the Dark Zone, and the more stuff you kill, you have the better chance of getting better loot, but it also means you get to die more, and you kind of get to experience other players. Now, being that you are in the Division, if you don't know, is kind of the group inside the game. The Division is a group that takes care of the city. They're kind of like the police, if you will, of New York City, if that's where the game is held, if I'm not sure if I mentioned that at all. Yeah, so the Division is really there to help everybody come together and kind of reunite New York City and bring everything back to peaceful and not off to gunfire so much. Now, in the Dark Zone, you can actually defy the other Division members, because when you join in, everybody is actually friendly. If you actually aim at somebody, it will say non-hostile agent. Now, if you actually start shooting people, you become rogue, and that's actually their multiplayer experience, to where you can actually die from other players. And that's one of the great things about this mechanic, is it kind of makes it more tense when you go into the Dark Zone itself, because you do have a better experience of dying, and you kind of have to watch who you're trusting. Now, when you play with up to 4 or 5 people, things can actually get very, very difficult for other players, because you're in a group. And as we all know, when you're in a group, things can get very difficult if you're by yourself. So I do encourage that if you do have the game and you go into the Dark Zone, I think it is definitely best to actually play with somebody. That way you can actually have some backup if somebody does start shooting at you. Now, one of the things that the Dark Zone actually does do is you can actually go up through ranks in the game. So I think you can go up to rank 30 in single player, and then rank 50 in the Dark Zone. Now, Dark Zone has its own currency. It has its own weapons that you can buy from the marketplace. And we're going to be talking about this a little bit too, because this is actually one of the main pieces of the game that really kind of brings the multiplayer together. The Dark Zone currency is actually just named DZ, or Dark Zone currency. So very simple, and you cannot use those actual currencies in the actual world itself, and you can only use those inside the Dark Zone. So the Dark Zone marketplace, you can buy better weapons just like loot. You can actually get the better materials there because they're kind of more rare, if you will. Now, one of the things the games does right is in a lot of games, you can actually match up with other people who've been playing the game for 30 hours. So if you only just started playing the game and you go into multiplayer, you don't really want to, be in a game with somebody who's played it for 30 hours. So luckily, the actual Dark Zone entrance, they have different levels. So once you reach level 15, you get 15 through like 20. And once you get to 20, you get 20 through 30. So it actually classifies everything by rank, so you're not stuck with people who are 10 levels higher than you. So it actually does do that very well again, so you do have a more enjoyable experience, because it's always a pain in the ass when you get into a game and you see a level 50 and you're only a level 1. You're like, well, he could kill me in 2 shots. So luckily that is not going to happen. You actually have to work your way up to get into those better lobbies, and the Dark Zone actually has crates around the map. Now, you can actually only access these crates when you are level 30 in the Dark Zone, so you also have to be aware of that. If you want better loot, you have to play the game more. Now, you can rank up very fast in the Dark Zone. It is very easy, but just know if you go rogue, you can actually lose some XP and some levels because you are punished for going rogue and killing other people. So it's one of the trade-offs of the Dark Zone and being rogue versus, killing people is you can kill somebody to get their loot, but you also have the worry of other people actually starting to shoot you in the map. So, because people can see when you go rogue, it shows up on their map. And so it kind of gets into a manhunt. And you can go all the way up to level 5 rogue. And you can beat the rogue system by just waiting it out. You have a timer. So if you actually want to, try to do that, you can. And once you get up to level 5 is the hardest one you can get. It becomes a full-on manhunt. It will say it on the screen, and basically that means everybody's coming to kill you. Trust me, I've had that happen one time, and it is fucking scary. So, in all honesty, I think the game is fantastic. It's put together very well, and is a very positive game in my opinion. And I think what sets it aside from other games like Destiny is the fact that you feel more involved in the environment because it feels more realistic to you, because you kind of can see what the buildings actually look like in real life, because it is based off a real place, New York City. Now, about killing civilians, we do have a couple things to talk about that are bad about the game. So one of the things that I think would made the game more bad, I don't know what more bad means. I think something that would have made the game better is if you could actually shoot civilians. You can't actually shoot civilians, which kind of sucks. And I remember asking, well, why do I want to kill civilians? Because it makes the world feel more in-depth and involved in it. And when you can't shoot civilians, it doesn't feel realistic. And I think what they should have done is if you kill a civilian, you just lose some XP. So you've been working hard to rank up. If you kill a civilian, you lose some of your XP, or maybe even a level or two, depending on how many you kill. So I think that way, it kind of has a trade-off to where if you kill somebody, you can, for no reason. But at the same time, I want to be able to kill those civilians to make me feel more involved in the game and make it feel more realistic, if that makes any sense to you guys. Other than that, the game is really well put together. In all honesty, I can't really find any downsides besides I wish there was an actual multiplayer setting besides the Dark Zone, because I feel like that would actually be really cool when it comes to the covering system in the game, how you move around with your teammates, because you can't just run out. It's not like Call of Duty. You can't just run and gun. You actually have to take your time. So I think that would have made online very interesting in the game, but unfortunately they do not have it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this game, for The Division. So I'm not going to give it a score because I do not believe in giving game scores because, to everybody, they are very different. So if you are the kind of person who likes playing games over and over again, kind of just grinding things out, you're going to like the game. If you don't like doing stuff like that, you're not going to like it. You will get bored pretty easily because a lot of the game is repetitive, and that's just, comes with the RPG status and MMO status, whatever you want to call it. So kind of be aware of that. If you don't like the hard games, this game might not be for you as well. You can set it to easy if you want, but I definitely don't recommend that. It kind of takes away from the experience of the game. So I think when a game's harder, it makes it more fun and more frustrating, but more fun at the same time. So really, I don't give it a score because everybody's opinion is always different. So you might like it for one reason, I like it for another. So I don't want to give scores for that reason because everybody can come up with their own conclusion, hopefully on the information I just gave you. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you like this review, and I will talk to you guys later, and bye-bye. I just got good news.